I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome back to the series, The AlphaBest. This is a series in which I'm going through each letter of the alphabet and telling you my 10 favorite games. Now, some letters are really easy to do, and other letters can, require me to look farther in the games that I don't talk about. And F is one of those. I think that some of these games I don't talk about as often, but I was still able to find 10 great games for the letter F. We'll start with number 10, Fields of Arle. Now, Fields of Arle is one of those from Uwe Rosenberg, and it has a very similar feel to his more popular games like Le Havre, Caverna, Agricola. So Fields of Arle did not get as much attention, mostly I think because it was two-player only and was a very big going-on game where you have these peat farms and you're building things. I really enjoyed it. It has some really cool aspects to it. The biggest problem with it was the fact that it was two-player and had some similarities to Le Havre and Agricola and Caverna, which already were great two-player games, but still a very fascinating, fun game. If you ever get a chance to play this one, you will find a very deep and fun worker placement rewarding experience. Number 9 is a cooperative game, Freedom, the Underground Railroad. Freedom, the Underground Railroad is about freeing the slaves prior to the Civil War. There's a lot of historical impact in this game. There's a lot of great theming, and you're doing something, very good. And also at the same time, it can be very sobering, but also at the same time, it is an excellent cooperative game. Just a neat historical and at the same time, wonderful game. Number 8 is For the Crown. Now, this is a game which I thought was going to be horrible when I first heard about it. A mix of deck building and chess. That's idiotic sounding, and yet it works really well, especially when you add in the expansions. For the Crown, though, it becomes a very deep game. Do I want to buy some cards to add them to my deck to make my deck better and allow me to do cooler things? Or do I want to get pieces out on the board? I only have a few pieces out. Should I get more pieces out? A lot of really great choices. If you like chess at all, and you like deck building, which isn't a ton of crossover, but for me, the crossover worked. Number 7, Fairy Tale. Deck drafting, is all the rage these days. Probably the most popular is Sushi Go, and then there's Seven Wonders. There's a lot of different popular games in that genre, but Fairy Tale for me still holds a special place in my heart because just the simplicity of it. It's a little more complicated than Sushi Go, but not much more. You're just collecting sets of cards in different ways. Very simple, very easy. They just came out with a reprint of this a couple years ago. Highly recommend it. Fairy Tale. Frenzy. This is a tower building game which uses a mechanism I love, which is where you're taking cards from this queue in the middle of the board, and you always have to take the first card, but you can skip it and take more cards, but then you have to put blocks on the other cards, and so eventually you'll say, that card's a terrible card, but I'll take it because it has 6 blocks on it. And then you use these blocks to build towers, and you use these towers to score points. It has a nice visual effect as you build the towers. It has that fun mechanism. It's simple and easy. It's a game that really has been passed over by many people, but is an excellent tower card drafting style game, Frenzy. Number 5 is Flashpoint Fire Rescue, another cooperative game. This one you are saving people from a burning building, or in the expansions, a burning submarine, office building, whatever. The idea is cool. There's not hardly any games about the firefighting, which is a very noble profession, very cool thing. Lots of kids, I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. Well, this game lets you do that, and you get to go in. There's explosions going off in the building. Each person has special abilities. You're grabbing people, picking them up, delivering them outside to the ambulances. Some really cool ideas here, and there's 2 versions, a family version, which is very simple and easy for families to get into, and then a more strategic version, and I like both of the versions a lot, and just really glad to have this one in my collection. Number 4 is that classic auction game, For Sale. We talk about this one a lot on our show. We talk about games for 6 players. We talk about games that take 15 to 20 minutes. We talk about games that are so easy to teach people, with fun artwork where you're buying houses here and then selling them. This is one of those games that I've taught to scores and scores of people who've never played any games like these on my shelves behind me. It works well. At the same time, if I'm playing with a bunch of people who are all very hardcore gamers, they also enjoy it too. A great card game, been in print many years. Highly recommend it. For Sale. Then 3 is a new game, Flick 'em Up. This is a dexterity game about the Old West, or at least our romanticized version of the Old West. And in this game, you got cowboys versus outlaws, and you're flicking discs across the board, and there's different scenarios, and you're shooting hats off people, and you get a shotgun, and there's all sorts of things. And then the expansion adds horses and ramps, and it has such a cool visual effect when you look at it on the table. It has team versus team. It's one of those games where you hear people shouting and whooping and hollering as they play it. A lot of fun. Flick 'em up. Number 2 is a party game, and that is Faces. Faces is a game in which you're going to put faces out on the table, and you say which one of these is the person who is watching you while you sleep, or which of these is the person who is sleeping now in class, or whatever. Then you have to guess. It's very similar to apples, but the faces, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's really the case here. I'm a little biased in this regard because I've made myself a custom version of Faces. I really like the version that Buffalo Games came out with. Unfortunately, it's out of print at this point in time, so I made a custom version, which is even more fun. But even the original version I had a lot of fun with. That is Faces. And my number 1 favorite game that starts with the letter F, which stands for failure, but in games does not. And that is Francis Drake. Francis Drake is a really cool worker placement game, and essentially you are putting people down on this path in the marketplace, and you can jump really far down in the marketplace to grab exactly what you want. But if you jump that far, you can never go back. So you can go slowly and get more things, but you won't get everything you want because other people will be jumping ahead and grabbing the cool stuff ahead of you. Then you go out and you send your ships around, and there's like a little bit of outguessing the other opponents. It's kind of a bigger, grandiose Euro-style game, but it just works on so many levels. Beautiful components. Highly, highly recommend it. Francis Drake. So those are my top 10 games that start with the letter F. Come back next time. We'll get to the letter G. Starting to sound like Sesame Street here. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.